This is Mark and Charity's Coffee Podcast.
Well, it's another year. Happy New Year, everybody.
Here we are, 2023.
Tuesday, January the 3rd. Looking at my phone for the universal sign for fog. Do you know that's fog? Those wavy lines.
That's not fog.
I thought that was the tide or something. That's what it looks like for fog.
No.
1 degree we're at right now. We just, before we get going, talking about the weather. So we've had Snowmageddon. We had fog like it's our day job on New Year's Eve, driving up to Madoc for a party. Mm-hmm. That wasn't a lot of fun at all. I was the lead car, so what does that tell you? Either I'm the safest driver and everybody trusts me, or I was the slowest driver and nobody wanted to pass me. I'm not sure which one.
Could have gone either way.
But that wasn't fun.
No.
But then it's New Year's, and here we are, January the 3rd. Kids still off this week. They're back at it next week. And so begins this 2-month stretch for me of January, February, which I'm not terribly a big fan of. I'm not a big fan.
You hate this
Not
time of
a
year.
good fan of this at all.
No, I know.
There's a lot of stuff that goes on, so I'm going to try and be positive. I have my interests that I'm going to hunker down on and just try and get through the next 2 months.
That's not a bad idea. That actually sounds very, very good.
You know what I got for Christmas? I tell you about this? Steph got me a 1,000-piece elf puzzle.
No, like the movie Elf?
Yeah, and so in the middle is the stand-up picture of Will Ferrell as Elf with the boots up, but around him are all of his different facial expressions. So it's about 40 faces of Will Ferrell's character all in one 1,000-piece puzzle.
And is that relaxing? Because that would drive me absolutely mad.
In its own little way, it can be, because it forces me to shut everything else out.
True.
And that's what I need.
Okay.
Because I get monkey brain. I get away I go. I get hamster on the wheel head going. And you know what triggers me more than anything? When I'm mocked about it.
I would say this morning you were triggered by a few things.
Yeah,
and
I promised.
there's been a few things going on. Number one, there was the Earth, Wind, and Fire. That got you going.
That makes me sad.
Not in an angry way. Of course, that I think just hit home for you because you're a fan and you quite enjoy Ted White. And then there was the hockey. And then there was, what was the other thing? Oh, the song list, the big thing.
Yeah.
The song list.
From Irrelevant Stone magazine.
Yes.
I've now decided, I wish I'd have thought about it more before we went on the air about it. But such is life that when you discuss it and then you go away and you think about it, then you gain a sort of a different perspective.
You have so many more points
and
you want
like,
to
I wish I had.
Yeah. No, I get it. So do you
wish...
want to talk about that then now? Let's get that off your chest.
Do you want to do that?
Rolling Stone put out a list.
Right.
Updated from 2008 when they put out a list of the 100 greatest singers of all time. Now they've upped it to 200 greatest singers. Now, it is a Rolling Stone list. They put it together. They are quite upfront, and they say these are our contributors, these are our staffers who put this list together. They're not hiding the fact that there was a lot of research put into this or science. It's their people. The big thing about it was that caught our attention and got us talking about it was the fact that all these people are on it, but Celine Dion is not.
Right. And that
got the ball going.
And we're not the only ones.
No.
We pick up the story. I'm not sure I would have done this list had the conflict of Celine not being on the list not exploded on social media.
We say she's not on the list, but other ones who were on the list.
As always, yeah.
Ozzy Osbourne, Iggy Pop. I even questioned Carrie Underwood over Celine Dion.
All great performers.
Yes. Even great singers.
Sure.
But the greatest and ahead of Celine, I don't know.
Especially when their criteria or their justification for not using her is, hey, we didn't say we have the best voices, we have the best singers. So you're making a distinction and still saying she can't sing? She's
over
not
Iggy Pop and Ozzy Osbourne?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that they can't, but when when you take a look at, like, for example, here's Tomorrow. Are we going to talk about the movies tomorrow?
I thought we would.
This is exactly perfect. So Variety magazine, Hoity-Toity Hollywood the Insider magazine of Beverly Hills.
Okay.
We would roll our eyes. They're out with the 10 best movies ever made, according to them.
Okay.
So number 8 on that list, It's a Wonderful Life. It's a garbage movie. The last 45 minutes is good. It's hokey and poorly acted. So Avatar isn't on there. Titanic isn't on there. Raiders of the Lost Ark isn't on there. E.T. isn't on there. But as soon as Hollywood gets it in its head that that's what greatness is, you can't shake it. So my thought is, yeah, Rolling Stone, if they've always had those guys on there, they're not going to bump Iggy Pop off now for Celine Dion if Iggy Pop has always been on that list. Because if they do the list again next year and Celine's number 84, you can't tell me it isn't because of she's not going to put out any new music. Unfortunately, she's got a horrible disease now.
Yeah, but it's been 15 years since the last list, too. Right. It's not like they're doing it annually.
But now she can never be on the list because how can she if there was always been...
I think she can.
But how? How suddenly did they decide that somebody who made the list now, they were wrong about and they're going to put Celine on?
So you think the first 100 are still on that list? They've just added to it.
That's my thought. Unless they came to their senses and said, no, I guess you're right, that person's a junkie singer, and they took them off. I mean, if you as a magazine said, we agree that, and I'm not going to argue with Aretha Franklin being number one. I wouldn't have picked her number one. I'm not saying I had somebody else.
I'm not surprised she's number one. I didn't have anybody else either because if you put me to it, I'm going to cut.
Well, that's my point.
Nobody's going to come to mind as the best. Am I going to argue she's number one? No. Because I don't necessarily think they're wrong. She's a great singer. But then you mentioned Whitney Houston. Again, if
number two on the list.
Yeah, but if they'd switched that, again, I wouldn't have argued it because they're both incredible singers. They both deserve to be there. But
as I said, if the list had come out and they had Celine Dion as number one or Barbra Streisand as number one, I would have said...
Barbra made the list.
Yeah, okay, sure. But, so who are you going to take off the list who's included now to put Celine on the next one without admitting you made a mistake on this one?
If they change employees, it could change.
That's the other thing, yeah.
If their staff rotates or they have a mass...
Then that's a real credibility thing.
Well, but they're very upfront saying that that's where it came from.
Yeah, so that's why I call it Irrelevant Stone magazine. So it's like, well, okay, that's your group. You're the cool kids, whatever.
I don't think it's irrelevant because it gets people talking.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean...
thinking about it.
That doesn't mean that they've actually identified the 200 best singers.
But it creates a conversation.
Yeah.
And conversation, I think, is always relevant.
Right. And so my relevant point is you're irrelevant.
Okay.
Rolling Stone. Because you're too old. You're too old. Ask Billie Eilish, who's number 198.
Yeah, she's on the list.
Yeah.
Like, there's people on... It's not like it's just old-time rock and rollers. No, I get that. They have included. I think I even saw someone from BTS on there.
Sure.
Better singer than Celine Dion? No, I don't think so. But that, I think, is a reflection of their staff, too.
Paul McCartney, John Lennon, both in the top 20, I thought?
I didn't see Paul. I saw John. John was number 12.
I think Paul was 24, something like that, one notch below Adele, who I think was 23.
So I missed Paul McCartney.
But Billie Eilish at 198, go ask her if she believes that she is, and I'm not saying she shouldn't be on it or we need to take her off, but some of the people on there, like ask them if you were surprised Celine wasn't on there. And I
Even
think more
The
times than
Weeknd.
not.
I love The Weeknd.
Yeah.
He landed at 110. Do I think he should be on there over Celine? Not really.
Yeah. So,
to me, he's a great entertainer and he's got amazing ability and talent.
And stage presence and performance.
Yes, he's creatively, not to take anything away from him as an artist. Do I think he's one of the greatest singers of all time? No.
Yeah.
I don't.
So anyways, we had some fun with that this morning. For about 2 minutes, it wasn't fun in here. But then after that,
it triggered Mark, and Mark got very...
And I promised I wasn't going to get triggered.
I call bull BS on that. Because you made the joke that you weren't going to get triggered this year.
Not going to get triggered.
You made it till yesterday.
And a half.
I'm surprised you made it 5 minutes. That something didn't happen right at midnight, that you weren't watching CNN and realized they weren't dropping the ball or celebrating midnight, and that triggered you.
What happened? Yeah, they missed it in the Central Time Zone.
I mentioned that in Pulse, yeah. They were too busy focusing on no drinking, although I think this Lemon guy might have been if he was dancing around and throwing beads around
So that's 11 o'clock Eastern Time. So you don't even get a pass because it was like 1 in the morning our time. No, it was an hour sooner than us. That day at midnight. Okay. No, it would have been after. I'm sorry, that's right.
Yes.
So, it's like,
the ball already dropped in New York. That's why they were celebrating.
What do they care then?
But it wasn't midnight yet where they were. And apparently it didn't matter. So that was the flub CNN has to come back now from heading into 2024. That'll be the topic next year.
So here's the list. There's going to be no drinking.
No drinking. We all pay attention to the clock.
More clocks. More producers.
But how many times has that happened? I don't know about you, but there's been a few occasions where there's been that panic of, oh crap, what time is it?
Yeah.
And you're within seconds.
We missed it at our party. Is it a big deal? Is that a big deal too?
I think it's a big, I feel it's a big deal.
Yeah.
Midnight, that's the whole point of New Year's Eve, is to stay up until midnight. And I don't care what we're doing or where we are. When it's like 10 to 12, we stop. And we focus on that. And we do the countdown. Like the kids, we were at a house party. We went to a friend's house, and there were 4 or 5 families there. So it was mass chaos. So the kids started counting. They started the countdown at 50. So we listened to this room countdown. Like, really, guys? Usually it's 10, but okay, let's do 50. Let's practice our numbers here.
Mom, we're going to do we're going to do 10 minutes. We're going to start at 600. We're going to work our way back.
But that's what but it was exciting for them.
Yeah.
So it was nice to see. And yeah, I think it matters.
Do you know why we missed it at our party?
Because you were watching
had the college football game
Of
on,
course. I was going to say football. I just didn't know if there was a game that late.
Ohio State had a field goal to win, and the kid chunked it.
Oh, no.
And we went, and they lost to the number 1 team, Georgia, who's undefeated, who's going to go on the championship. And we all went, oh, my God, that's awful. Hey, we should probably flick over to see because it's pretty close to midnight. We flicked over, gone.
Oh.
We all looked at our phones. It was already 12 o'clock. All right, well, Happy New Year, everybody. Shame about the kid missing the field goal, but yeah.
Now, do you go around the room and hug and wish everyone a Happy New Year?
See, this is a podcast where people may hear. How honest do I have to be on this?
I didn't know it was a tough
New Year's
question.
resolution.
I'm just curious.
See, here's the thing. See, I'm not a hugger. I'm not an expressive person like that. I'm not a touchy-feely.
You are all over people's space. What are you talking about?
But, you know, that sort of hugging thing, like, I know I'm an uncomfortable creeper.
Do you wish everyone individually happy and New Year? Okay.
Yeah. And so at the party, we all did that. And I was like, oh, do I have to do this?
So did you hug people?
Yeah, I have to. Yeah, because it's rude not to. It's like,
when have you ever shied away from a hug?
I don't know. I'm just not a hugger. I'm not. I don't know why you think I am a hugger.
Again, I'm calling BS because you... At every possible opportunity, you're talking about hugging people and wanting to hug people, and you're in my space more than you should be.
Because it makes you uncomfortable, right? Let's call it.
All right. I thought it was you genuinely liked a hug.
No, not when.
So you're poking the bear then. So but you try.
First of all, I never hug you.
You try.
When do I try and hug you?
Or you allude to coming in for a hug.
Yeah.
And then I get super uncomfortable.
I know. That's what I want. That's the reaction I want. And if you were to say,
thought you were a hugger.
If you were to say, bring it in, big boy.
You totally back off?
Totally backing off.
I wish I'd known that these last 3 years.
Not
I
happening.
am surprised.
Yeah,
I really thought, especially with friends and family, you'd be like, yep, bring it in.
No, not really.
Because it's not like you were with strangers.
No, exactly. And Cass is very impressed with families that still do that because I'm not. I'll see you. That's it. I'm a professional leaver. That's what I tell people.
Professional leaver.
I am. When it's time to go, I get up, said see you, and I leave. I don't do the hugging and look, I'll see you around.
See, and I hugged everybody. New Year's Eve, I was hugging everybody.
I mean, I did because everybody else did, and I didn't want to be antiseptic man.
It's the kissing that makes me uncomfortable. I'll be honest. I always feel awkward about that because I don't. I kiss my husband. I kiss my kids.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
I knew someone there was a man who used to always come in for a kiss, and it always, genuinely sweetest man in the world, loved him to death, but there was just that one thing about him that always made me so uncomfortable.
No way.
I would awkwardly try to turn.
No way.
Yeah, he was that comfortable. I was not.
No, I'm not comfortable with that kind of stuff.
So
Yeah, no, I'm not a big, I'm like when put to the test, no touchy feeling.
But as we said last week, you show affection, and that's what's going to carry through the year, right? Like
right.
When you're affectionate and you.
So maybe this will be the year.
You make that bond stronger with those people in your life.
Well, maybe I should just open up my heart more.
It
Probably
did grow about 100 times over the holidays.
I don't know. I had great holidays. So
I know. It was nice. And now back to it. At least for the adults, kids are still off this week. Doesn't it feel weird? I feel ready to get back into the routine, but we can't because the kids are still home.
See, my kids haven't been home for 10 years post-pandemic.
But does it feel like we're late? Does it feel like we're early? It's just time.
Feels like here we go. We're at
Well,
it.
you didn't turn on the Christmas lights in here this morning, so it's over.
I'm going to guess Emily's going to be ripping this stuff down.
Well, yours are down.
Yeah, we took ours down already.
I'm hoping to get to ours
Which
this
is Catholics, we're not supposed to do. You're supposed to leave it up to the Epiphany.
the weekend?
Because if you take it down, how are the wise men supposed to show up? You don't take it down. Wise men haven't shown
I
up
thought the
yet.
wise men showed up like the night of.
No, they showed up the Epiphany.
Well,
the
geez.
star.
Then why are we taught that they show up the same time as everybody else for the miraculous birth on Christmas Eve? That's why we celebrate everything.
No, the shepherds went that night, and then they left. And then the wise men came because it took them it took them almost 2 weeks to get there. You know why? Because they're men and they didn't stop to ask directions.
I should be setting up our nativity scene totally different.
It should be. And then
The wise men should not come out then, is what you're saying.
I
Until
move
this
them
week.
closer. I start out. The wise men are in the other room, and I move it closer.
And the shepherd move on.
Yeah, and the shepherd's like, "You guys are done. Get out of there." So the Epiphany is when the wise men showed up, and that's always the first Sunday after New Year's. So it'll be the 8th.
I
That's
just
the Epiphany.
remembered. The Pope passed away.
And then Pope Benedict passed away, yeah.
Now, I apologize because I just heard the headline. Did he pass away before New Year's or after?
I think, that's a good question. I'm not sure. It was on the weekend. He might have.
And
I
this
think he passed
isn't
away.
our current Pope.
No,
This is the one
Pope
that
Benedict,
stepped down.
Emeritus, the first Pope to resign in 600 or 800 years due to declining health. Yeah, and then he sort of, went into
Didn't he
not
develop
hiding, but-
dementia?
Yeah, it was pretty bad. But he survived because what did he? Was it 9 years
was a
ago he
while
stepped
ago,
down?
yeah. So he passed away.
He passed away.
We
Yep.
heard about, of course, Barbara Walters
And then
on
I saw
Friday.
and I heard a headline
What?
that said, "Well, what are we going to do with Benedict?" Well, I'm hoping we're going to bury him. It was
Yeah,
like, well, what are we
what
going
do
to
you
do with
mean?
him? What do you mean? That's what I thought.
like, what kind of service to hold for him?
Yeah,
or?
like what do you do? It's like, doesn't he go where all the other popes go?
I would think
like,
so,
why
because he
is something
was
up in
pope.
the air? Like I didn't
What's the
understand.
question? Yeah.
Yeah. What have we run out of room? Like,
hope
please. Like, do we need to have a conclave on that now? Like, come on, let's do it right.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean,
hadn't seen
we
that.
question everything. You'll
Well,
have to
no,
look that up.
clearly, I would think, obviously, he would lay in state or however
He is.
lays,
Yep.
and people can send their condolences,
Correct.
and then it would continue on through whatever channels and
Yep.
ceremonies and services are held for popes.
Right. Except there's no
And
vote
then-
because we already have a current
Yeah,
pope. And
and
a
then
current pope
he's
hasn't
buried.
ever presided over a past pope's death because they all usually die.
Yeah, you die
So
in
this
service.
is kind of different. And I'm an historical freak, but the fact this has only happened in 800 years, no, okay. Yeah, I don't know.
That's weird that they would ask that.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So it was a strange
So he
thing.
passed
Barbara
away.
Walters
Barbara
passed
Walters.
away.
That was a big one. I'm not going to lie. It kind of felt like a
Yeah.
Betty White thing.
Yeah.
Just another icon that, like, she hasn't been seen since, or I shouldn't say seen. Of course she's been seen, but I want to say 2016.
Yeah.
She kind of stepped away. She was 94. So, but yeah, interesting. The View's going to be doing a special on her today, of course, the show she created and launched in 1997.
I have to give her better props than I ever gave her when she was alive
Why?
as a broadcaster because she always did those great interviews, right? But I always had problems with some of her questions.
Oh, yes.
She had, and not that they were inappropriate, it was just like, I always felt like she missed the big question.
Really?
Yeah, because one of the things that I was taught, so I would always watch it, and Larry King was very good to me, of hearing an answer and then giving the next question that if you were sitting in the room and somebody said that to you, what would your next follow-up question be? And it would be a follow-up on what they just said.
Yeah.
I always had the impression with her that she had 10 questions on a clipboard, and regardless
And
of
she
what
kept
the
to it.
answer was, she would go to the next question. It was like,
Rather than reacting to how.
yeah, did Will Smith just say he believes in extraterrestrials? Because she was interviewing him after Independence Day, and he said that he believes that there are extraterrestrials. And then she said, I want to ask you a question about your wife. And it's like, excuse me, the man just said,
Yeah.
why? Have you seen, like, right?
Yeah.
So
Where are they then? Where do
Yeah.
you, like, how do you, why?
But here's why.
where?
Here's why I want to give her props. Is I need to remember that her type of journalism she invented. There was not a news magazine like 60 Minutes that existed for a woman to sit down and do celebrity interviews. We take Diane Sawyer and Oprah for granted,
Not just
right?
celebrity interviews, but she talked with everybody.
That's what I mean. We didn't have that. Nobody sat down even with a president for half
The
an
world
hour
leaders.
to have a casual
conversation
off chat that isn't like an election speech.
Yeah.
She would get that. So she kind of had to invent it. And so I guess her style was, I need to make sure I get these 10 answers. So I guess I looked at it differently rather than what her job was to do. But she had the respect, and that more than anything, as we've learned in journalism, is the key that you can't make up because there's so little respect for the media now.
Well, and when I mentioned her in the Pulse, I just mentioned the fact that she was the first female co-host for the Today Show. And that happened in 1974.
With Hugh Downs.
That in itself was huge. Mm-hmm. And within 2 years, she was the highest paid news anchor and the first female news co-anchor, again, for ABC for their evening news in 1976. And when you think back to 1976, that was huge.
Yep.
Because as you said, you'd never seen a female anchor.
Yep.
And what she must have gone through to get there. Like when we look at how things are now, the Me Too movement the last few years, how women are still fighting for equality. Just last year, Jennifer Valentine, and how women are treated even in this industry now in media, and how they still have to fight and still have to keep their voices heard and whatnot. So to go back to 1976 and to have your spot, what that must have been like, what she would have had to deal with, what she would have had to prove constantly. It's incredible.
Yep. Paved the way for Jane Pauley, I think, who took her place.
Anyone who found themselves behind that desk.
40, 50 years in other networks and other...
doing that job. It just incredible. Incredible, her legacy.
And we got a few really famous people in their late 90s. Come on, make it. Bob Barker's 99.
99. He's
Dick
turning
Van
100
Dyke
this year.
Is 96. So,
but then you go the other way. Ted White was only 67.
Yeah.
The drummer of Earth, Wind & Fire, which is very young. But then he joined the band when he was 19.
19. I literally thought he was going to be one of these guys who joined them in 2002 on a tour, right? No, he was part of...
and he passed away over the weekend,
4 boys in the Whites family was all part of Earth, Wind & Fire.
And did he have the red jumpsuit? Is that why?
No, he was a drummer.
So he didn't have a jumpsuit?
He might have, but who knew? He was behind the kit, right? He didn't have the stand-up organ, the boom, boom, boom. So good. So good. So good. Oh, Earth, Wind, and Fire.
We should have played more Earth, Wind, & Fire this morning.
No, a little bit goes a long way.
Okay.
No, not for me. I could play it all day. Like my favorite meme that somebody sent me in before at grocery stores, if you don't want me to dance, stop playing Earth, Wind, and Fire. Like I'm going to dance up and down the aisle.
Yeah, how can you not?
Like there I was in Walmart one day and Kenny Loggins was on. I was singing out loud in the cracker aisle and there was a woman looking at me as I'm singing, but if you really love me, what? Oh, I'm sorry. Was that out loud? Sorry about that. Well, it's Kenny Loggins. What do you want? She runs away with her Triscuits. Have a nice day. New Year's resolutions.
So that's how the new year is starting off.
Off and running. Here we go. Coming up in the podcast later on this week. Who's that wonderful woman we're going to be speaking to who's headed off to be a referee for the women's under-18 hockey championship?
From Brighton, currently lives in Trenton. Jen Berezowski.
Yeah.
She's going to be joining us, getting ready to head off to Sweden. She flies out Thursday, but we're going to chat to her before she heads out. The first female ref to be part of the games, to be part of this championship.
Yeah.
So,
okay, great.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome that she was chosen. Just had a baby a few months ago.
And off you go.
Yeah, and away she goes.
Good for her.
Yeah.
So we'll get her coming up on the podcast tomorrow. Join us again. Face Bartlett was the first one to get in on our Journey to Win contest. Caller number 9 when we play it. You'll qualify to win a pair of tickets to see Journey on their 50th anniversary tour. Bringing along their friends Toto along the way. You can be in Ottawa to enjoy it. We'll ask you a Journey question. Get it right. It's a second ballot. Coming up on Monday, we'll make the draw. We got Sounders going all day. All night.
Steve Perry, number 76, just so you know.
On the
200.
Voices.
Yeah, greatest singers of all time.
Just ahead of Katy Perry and Tyler Perry and Perry Mason, because it's such a scientific list. And I'm being triggered. Are you on the list? You should have been on the list. You could have been on the list.
Charity Brown didn't make the list, no.
Could have been on the list.
Because there is a singer named Charity Brown. I don't know if you know that. Canadian singer, out of Kitchener.
Yeah.
I have her album cover at home.
And your dad named you because of her?
No, he didn't.
We love to say that, though. Not even close.
I hear that all the time, but no. What was awesome was when I first started out, I worked at an oldies station, so I would intro and extra Charity Brown, the singer.
Here I am. Yeah. And she would call up and say, knock it off.
That was Charity Brown. I'm Charity Brown. Here's Charity Brown.
Well, it's just such a great radio name, too.
John Henderson told me that the first day of school.
Really? Charity Brown's
He made me stand up in front of everybody when he was doing the roll call. He said, you have a great name. Oh. Is it real? I said, yes, it is.
It is.
It's like, okay, sit down.
Yeah. Sit down now. Okay.
All right. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah. Now, what's your career goal? One day, I'm going to do a morning show with Mark Philbin. And he said, aim higher. That's what John would have said. Aim higher. You can do better than that, Charity Brown. And then we're going to do a podcast.
It's been amazing.
I don't know. Mark and Charity Coffee Podcast. Happy New Year. We're closing in on 300 sometime next week.
Next week we hit our 300th show.
300th episode of the Mark and Charity Coffee Podcast. Now go off and make today a great day. Join us tomorrow morning at 95.5 Hits FM.